let's get started. Today we're going to practice creating numerical expressions. A numerical expression is when you have numbers and symbols that represent a value or how much something is worth. For example, you've probably seen something like this before in 5th grade math. 2 times 3 minus 4. That's a numerical expression. And you may use PEMDAS or GEMDAS. That's a numerical expression. In today's mini lesson, we are taking words and creating these. We're taking words and creating a numerical expression. We're not going to evaluate the expression. We're not going to solve it. We're going to create it. So let's read this and attempt to create a numerical expression. Number 1, find the sum of 10 and 4, then divide by 2. Again, find the sum of 10 and 4, then divide by 2. So when creating numerical expressions, you want to first look for keywords that will tell you or signal to you what your operation may be. For example, when I say keywords, they're going to help you identify if you're multiplying, if you're adding, if you're subtracting, if you're dividing. Okay? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. That's what the keywords are going to do. So in this first example, what are some keywords that you see that could possibly tell you the operation? Hopefully you said sum, circle sum. Hopefully you also said divide. And we know sum means we're adding, and divide, of course, is sharing or division. Now, I've identified keywords that signal to me what my operation will be. Then, let's read it again to see which numbers will be associated with that keyword to start creating this numerical expression. Let's read again. Find the sum of 10 and 4, then divide by 2. Find the sum of 10 and 4, then divide by 2. Okay, let's do that. So it says, find the sum of what two numbers? What two numbers are we probably going to be adding together? Hopefully you said 10 and 4. 10 and 4. So when creating this numerical expression, I know I have to have 10 being added to 4, because that's what that means. Find the sum of those two numbers, 10 and 4. So I'm going to write that first. I see the word then. Then is telling me I'm going to do this after I do this. When I see then, that lets me know I'm going to do this after I do something else. So I want to do this part first. So this is going to be the first thing that needs to happen in my expression. Then I want to do this part second. Then what? Let's read it again. It's best to keep reading this when you're creating it to make sure you don't make simple mistakes. Find the sum of 10 and 4, then divide by 2. Then divide by what? 2. Remember, when we have numerical expressions, we sometimes have these. What are these called? Hopefully you said they're called grouping symbols. Those grouping symbols help determine what is going to be completed first within that numerical expression. So we're going to place grouping symbols here, one in front of 10 and one behind the 4. We're going to do that because, as stated here, find the sum of 10 and 4 first, right? So because we're going to do that first, we're going to put them in grouping symbols. Then we what? Divide by 2. So don't forget the grouping symbol. That's major. So we find keywords, identify those, identify the numbers or values that are associated with those keywords, start creating the expressions, and place grouping symbols when needed to tell you what should be done and in what order. Okay, let's try the second one. The product of 2 and 6 subtracted from 20. I circled my keywords. That gives me a hint as to what my operations will be. I know that product means that's the answer to a multiplication question. So I know I'm going to multiply. And then, of course, I see subtracted. So that's a minus sign. So we got product, we have subtraction. Now let's see the numbers. The product of what and what? The product of 2 and 6. Let's write that. 2. The product of 2 and 6 subtracted from 20. So first, I'm going to find the product of 2 and 6. Then that product will be what? Very good. Subtracted from 20. Because Jim Dye says that we multiply before subtracting, you still would have gotten the same value. However, I still like to put the grouping symbols to denote what happens first, just to make sure I get it correct. But say you didn't put these grouping symbols here, the value of the numerical expression still would have been correct. But best practices for a 5th grader is to just put the grouping symbols, okay? All right. Hope you learned something new today in the Krew. This skill takes a lot of practice, students. So please rewatch. All right. Catch y'all later in the Krew.